Hey everyone, my name is Andy Boyan. This is Chainlink Live. I'm from Chainlink Labs, and I'm here today talking to Eric Pinos from Wing Finance. And we're going to be talking about DeFi, do a Q&A. Glad to have your questions in the YouTube chat. So strap in for a little while. We're going to learn all about what Wing has going on in their DeFi platform. Eric, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I'm glad to be here. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, it's great to meet you. Why don't you start by giving us a little introduction to yourself? Who are you? How did you get into crypto and ontology and Wing?
Sure. So my name is Eric. I got into crypto in 2014. I was still in school, so I was a sophomore at MIT, and there was a really cool project called the MIT Bitcoin Airdrop. And so that was an initiative started by two students to airdrop $100 worth of Bitcoin to every student on campus at the time, which Bitcoin was, it was $200 at the time. So everyone got half a Bitcoin, just airdropped to their wallet for free, every student. And obviously, most people got it. It was like, hey, $300 they sold and cashed out. But the believers held on. The believers, we formed the MIT Bitcoin Club, grew that club, to all the students interested on campus. That's how I got involved, and I got looped into the ecosystem that way. Through that and my experiences there was like an intercollegiate network called the Blockchain Education Network, which the MIT Bitcoin Club was a part of. So I got to meet students from other universities interested in blockchain, and then I got to meet companies. And so I met Ontology, and Wing didn't exist yet, so it was Ontology Network. I met them through the speakers that we brought in. We would bring in speakers to the campus, and then through the connections there, got plugged in with them. So after graduating, I did a couple of things, but then I found myself at Ontology Network working as the America's ecosystem lead, where I would think a lot about how can we grow in the US and Latin America? How can blockchain be used to kind of, have like real world use cases? So Ontology has a very big focus on enterprise use cases. So things like supply chain, automotive industry, blockchain for medical records. And that's why we have a big focus on decentralized identity, because a big element of how you make those products exist, you need to have an identity element to it. So, fast forward to today, the thing that we're working on, which has kind of gotten the most attention recently, is Wing Finance. So Wing Finance is a decentralized lending platform that exists on Ontology, it exists on Ethereum. We're launching it on Binance Smart Chain next, but it utilizes a credit score, a decentralized credit score, to give people a reputation and give them like access to better lending rates. So it merges decentralized identity with decentralized finance.
Man, you got a great origin story. I love the superhero crypto origin stories. And yours is fantastic because I feel like a lot of people can put themselves in your shoes now. Like we got college students, we got people who are early in their careers who are just imagining getting airdropped half a Bitcoin. And there's just no concept of what that was like for some people who have entered the space recently. But if I can be honest, I think to get involved now, it's a very similar path. You go to your university, you find a local meetup club, and you get involved, and you figure out how can I contribute to this ecosystem. And then the journey of a career, getting involved with Ontology and now Wing launching a DeFi platform. It's absolutely like that's exactly how it still happens today. It just depends on where you are on that journey. So cool story, very, very fantastic story. I love hearing that. So tell us a little bit more about Wing specifically, like what's on the platform, how can people use it, what are the sort of products that they would expect to see, just so we're like level set and understand what this is.
Yeah. I wanted to say also that you're exactly right with like how students are being exposed to crypto now. So I'm the president of the Blockchain Education Network, and we are setting up clubs at new universities. We have clubs that are starting up on their own and joining us, and it's the same process. Like, what's the most exciting thing you can do? It's like doing an airdrop or running a node or getting involved in DAOs. There's so many hands-on ways to be involved in crypto, even if you don't know how to code, which makes it like a very accessible thing for students, especially. So that's really
Yeah,
cool.
absolutely.
As for the product pool, so on Wing there's multiple different product pools that people can participate in. So the first and the most traditional is called the Flash pool. And so the Flash pool is like your typical over collateralized lending pool. Like if you have an asset, whether it's ETH or Wing or ONT or BTC, one of the cool things about Wing is that we use a cross-chain bridge called Poly Network to wrap assets from the Ethereum chain onto the Ontology chain. So even if you're using the Ontology version of Wing, you can still have your favorite assets like Ethereum and Uni and DAI and USDC. And so you lend one of those, right? And then you can borrow against it. You collateralize it. So like if I lend $10,000 worth of USDC, I can borrow up to $5,000 worth of BTC. And then I go and do whatever it is that I want to do with it. You earn wing rewards for lending and borrowing on top of the regular like interest that you're earning interest just for lending out your assets. So there's that pool. Then
Well,
there's
let's back up for just one sec for some people who are newer. So this bridge idea, it's such a cool idea, and since you guys are a multi-chain platform, it's kind of core to how a lot of this works. But a bridge essentially, like if you're on Ethereum and you've got ETH and you want to move it to Ontology, you can lock it up essentially, and it's locked in a smart contract, and then it unlocks an equivalent value on Ontology. So you can switch over to that network and you've got access to the same value of funds in the same denomination, but it's secured on ETH and it's secured on Ontology. So just as a level set, like that's how those bridges work. And it lets you do a lot of really cool cross-chain stuff now with BSC. We've got all sorts of level 1 and level 2 networks doing very similar things. So
yeah,
okay, cool.
And sorry, I think it's very no, it's fine. Yeah, it is very important for interoperability. I think people are using a lot to save on gas fees. So like one of the earliest value adds for Wing, because we launched back in September, right, was that for a long time, we were one of the only lending platforms that you could use for very low transaction fees with your favorite assets. That was another important thing, right? It's like you can transfer your ETH, transfer your DAI, transfer your USDC. Everyone's paying hundreds of dollars on gas fees on Ethereum to do the lending and the borrowing. You eat up all your rewards. It's like you lose all the rewards by paying the gas fees. Meanwhile, the Wing community and me are over here like, we don't know what you're talking about. Gas fees for us only cost like a couple of cents, right? So like, I think every platform has its place and has a role to serve. So really what needs to happen is interoperability and these bridges and these cross-chain transactions. So that's kind of the future that we're looking to build. That's also why we really like Chainlinks, because you guys are interoperable with multiple chains and you guys are definitely a pivotal part of this ecosystem to enable like being able to lock assets, unlock them on the other side, have a price feed that's consistent across all of them, feed in the data that's, while keeping it secure. That's all very important.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got some comments in the chat. Go ahead and ask your questions now. We may save them till later, but we'll get to them. My man Josh, grab some of those questions and just send them to me on Telegram so I know which ones to ask, and I can sort through them later. But feel free to ask them now. When it comes to cross-chain and multi-chain, I consider myself a most-minimalist, as in there's a place for most chains out there. It's just a matter of like finding the niche and figuring out how they're going to talk to each other. That's why I love Chainlink, is because it helps facilitate that as a cross-chain and multi-chain infrastructure component. Okay, so we got off on a tangent because it's interesting stuff. So there's your lending protocol, your bridge protocol, and your lending operation on Wing. What are some of the other things in the product pool there?
Yeah, so another pool is the inclusive pool. And so the inclusive pool is established as a separate product, still under the Wing brand, right? But there you can lend and borrow using a credit score. And so the O score, which is built on top of Ontology using OntID, which is a mix of decentralized identifiers and verifiable credentials, kind of puts together a decentralized identity for yourself. Basically, the way it works is that it looks at your transaction history and it aggregates your net worth and what types of assets you have, and expansions to it. We want to expand it so that it can also check what protocols you've interacted with, right? And like, have you been a good lender in the past? Are you a DeFi degen getting yourself liquidated every other week? Like what is your like risk level with DeFi, and how well do you use these protocols? How well have you shown you use these protocols? And it gives you a score. And with this score, you're able to access better lending rates. So you might get like a lower collateral requirement, or you might get like a higher reward for like lending and borrowing. The goal is to have under collateralized lending so you can borrow and lend mostly based off of just your score, which I think is a very important step for DeFi to take, because most of DeFi now is over collateralized. So you need to have the money to borrow a portion of that money. So it limits the use cases to people that want exposure to different assets they don't want to sell, or to like short sellers, right? People that are trading. But we want to enable loans for anyone, right? Like if someone wants to take a loan to cash out to like buy an actual house, they can use a credit score, right? Normally you would use a credit score. And the credit score is
Mhm.
interesting because the credit score scares people because it's like
Mhm.
it's such a bad thing. Like in the way that it's run now, it's like banks will create a credit score for you, or no, companies will buy your data from a bank and then create the credit score for you, then charge you money to see your own credit score and give you no clues as to how a credit score is calculated. So you have no idea how to change it. Right? You have to like watch all these videos just to learn to think about how you possibly could change your score. So, decentralized identity and blockchain is a perfect tools to kind of take back control of the credit score and give it back to people.
You know,
And it goes really
I,
well with DeFi.
I hear the way you're talking about calculating this score. It's the same way a lot of airdrops are calculated. So as a lot of the protocols that are coming out, they want to get exposure. They do an airdrop. They do all the same things. They monitor like, okay, what tokens are in your wallet? What governance have you participated in? Where are you staked in DeFi? So that's a common metric, and that's really interesting. Way to think about credit score compared to because that's on chain. It's transparent. Anybody can find that information by address at least. Whereas this traditional way of finding credit scores, like you said, people don't know how it's calculated. If you check it too many times, you get a penalty, right? Because so how is that
Yeah.
calculated? There's a lot of questions about that right there. So that's really interesting. A couple of people have joined us, so I just want to make sure, kind of reset here. My name's Andy Boyan, Chainlink Labs. I'm here talking to Eric from Wing Finance, and we're talking about their product set and how they're doing DeFi, lending, and borrowing. We've already talked about multi-chain. We've talked about the bridge component. We're talking about collateralization, and they've got a cool thing here where most of DeFi is over collateralized. So if I want to borrow 5 grand, I have to deposit 10 grand or more, or in some cases. Whereas Wing, they're trying to create this credit score based on your DeFi activity and other activity that will let you do under collateralized loans, which is how most of lending, at least in traditional finance, works. Put a down payment on a house for 20%, not 200%
Yeah.
of the value of your house. And so, what I think is people come in and they hear about over collateralized loans and they're just like, I don't even know how to process that. Like it's such a weird idea to a great many people. Can you talk a little bit more about this model for lending and borrowing, the credit model? Like how does that play? Like play out actually in the mechanics mathematically? What sort of under collateralized rates are possible? What other kind of components are required in that O score?
Yeah, so it's very experimental, right? So we're taking it like one step at a time. I think at the start, it's only stable coins for like lending and borrowing to try to reduce the level of risk. So you can lend USDC and borrow USDT. I think the rate, I think it can get down to, I think 80%, but I'm gonna have to double check. But basically, if you lend 8,000 USDT, you can borrow 10,000 USDC. So you get like $2,000 extra that you can borrow based on your score, right? If your O score is good, and that is measured based off of like how much balance you have. You have to verify yourself on social media, so the elements have other identities, so you're not as anonymous anymore. So it's just trade-offs, right? And I think that the way it can grow is really interesting because we have kind of a separate product that we use called reusable KYC, and so this is something we used a lot. Basically, you would KYC yourself with like a passport or like a government identification, and then that you would get a verifiable credential that's on chain that links your wallet to that, so you're verified. And now we had a whole bunch of clients and partners that would do airdrops to them, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
there was a whole thing, right? When you're doing airdrops, some airdrops were only able to be done to based on the jurisdiction, like, okay, no US citizens or no Chinese citizens, right? Or like ICOs or participation ICOs through your wallet address. So reusable KYC has an element to play in that. And so we're thinking like, oh, can you mix these two together or just separate? Like we think that the decentralized identity is really like, it's not like a binary thing. It could be like a confidence interval thing. Like
Mm-hmm.
how strong is your identity? Well, how many forms of verification did you do? If you only did one, then you don't know who it is, right? And that might be fine for some apps that are like a lot more chill, but like some other apps are like a lot more like you're lending and borrowing. You want to reduce the risk of people just borrowing more and then running away.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we don't do over collateral. That's why we haven't done under collateralized loans yet, because nobody knows what any of the actors are. So yeah, it's just all experiments. We're kind of pushing forward with that.
So I've got some questions from the audience here that are right on point with what we're talking about. So I'm going to pop them up and let you talk to community directly. Given asks, how will lenders hedge themselves against loan default risk? So how
Yeah,
does that work?
that is a good question. So there's rewards for lending. It's yield farming basically. So you earn wing rewards for lending, which incentivizes people to lend. You also earn the interest from the borrower that's just paying you off in interest. We also have an insurance pool, and so that insurance pool, people can deposit it, and that protects against if there's like any defaults in the system or that the borrower can't pay it back. So that pulls from the insurance pool, and the insurance pool also has really high rewards rate for people that are willing to kind of contribute their deposit their wing into the insurance pool, and they earn rewards that way.
Cool. So it's a subsidized model somewhat, but then there's
Yeah.
also a number of other mechanisms that are in place to help generate that. Excellent. All right, let's see. I'm sorry, I'm sorting through your guys' questions right here. Here's a good one. How does one start with their O score? Like, do you just get it or do you have to sign up for stuff? How does it work?
Yeah, well, OScore has its own site, but you can get there through the Wing site as well. If you go to wing.finance and you click on the inclusive pool, because you're going to use it to like lend and borrow, it'll have a link. And click here, you go set up your OScore, you connect your wallet. So we have a browser wallet called Onto Web Wallet. We also have another wallet called Cyano Wallet, but you can use either of those to connect to your OScore. It's like a DApp, right? It's a DApp on a website. And so you go to the DApp, then you sign in with your wallet, and then it generates your score if it's your first time using it.
Cool. We got a few questions about blockchain stuff. So I'm going to save those and kind of group them together for in a little bit. A little earlier, you mentioned that you were kind of enterprise focused. So do you guys have products that are enterprise specifically, or as Ravi asked, B2C, or is it only P2P? What's the model there? And you could talk about roadmap too, if you guys got stuff coming up.
Yeah, well, for Wing, we're always looking for institutional lenders and borrowers, right? For Ontology, I mean, a lot of our products are enterprise focused. We have a whole product focus working with automotive, like automobiles and in the automotive industry, looking at how blockchain can be used to secure data and securely transfer data between cars and having cars communicate in a network together. So that's one example. We're working with supply chain. We're working with different hospitals and schools. I think actually coming back to Wing, so something interesting for Wing is that we just launched another pool called the Any Pool. And so the Any Pool, the idea behind the Any Pool is to do peer-to-peer lending between any kind of asset, whether that's like a fungible asset like an ERC20 or a non-fungible asset like a non-fungible token. So NFT lending, even security tokens can be lent and borrowed. So for example, one of the first projects that we're working on is we have like a firm that owns land or owns a property and fractionalizing the property into tokens and then lending out those tokens. So being able to borrow against those tokens, other people can borrow those tokens, right? And that token represents ownership in that property. And so this is something that we push it all into the Any Pool because the Any Pool lets you do fixed rate lending. So it's an agreement between the buyer and the seller, right, or the lender and the borrower, which is it's a whole thing. I think NFT lending is really interesting. I think security token lending is really interesting. And we're all about like getting all the weird assets, right, listed up so people can lend and borrow those. But that's kind of B2B because we would have to go to a property owner and if they, there's two different things, right? One is fractionalizing your asset into tokens and then putting them on the blockchain. And the second thing is now that you have those tokens, you can lend and borrow them just like you can lend and borrow any other token. Same thing for NFTs. I think if you want to NFT your asset or make an NFT asset, you can make it and then lend and borrow that as well. So it's all it comes back to the money Legos. We're trying to introduce interesting things to make money Legos with, like security tokens, NFTs, credit score, fractionalization, real world assets, property. It's all super interesting.
Any as in ANY, any.
Yeah.
Any
yeah,
pool.
Like, lend
it sounds
anything,
like a nightmare, but fantastic. I imagine the junk drawer. Like I got the junk drawer at my house. It's just like everything goes in here. I don't know. What am I going to find? Yeah, lend it.
Well, it's all because it literally like, right, you can lend anything, and then all it takes is someone else to say, "Oh yeah, I'll borrow it," right? And then this
Yeah.
you agree, you set the rate that you want, right? Like, oh, I want this APY, 40% APY for a 30-day, loan, and then the person on the other side, if they agree to it, yeah, it could be a you can lend anything, right? And then with
Yeah.
these
That's
bridges,
fantastic.
getting into that as well, right? Like the being able to bridge things from other chains as well, so you can lend things from other chains using ontology as kind of the arbiter for that.
Cool. I got a great KYC question, delving a little bit into blockchain philosophy and the spirit of crypto as an industry. Do you think KYC is against the spirit of blockchain? What's your perspective on that? Like gaining, bits of people's identity is, some of the anonymity or pseudonymity of crypto. Certainly, it's still in the spirit of a lot of our industry.
Yeah, that's a good question because I think about that a lot. I think like to say that KYC is against the spirit of blockchain, that would be saying that like anonymity is the spirit of blockchain, right? That you know anonymity is the spirit of blockchain. I don't think it's really about anonymity. I think it's more about agency and like choice, right? Like blockchain gives people the choice to decide what they want because anonymity, I mean, the anonymity is gone as soon as you accidentally like paste a key somewhere or like show someone your address, you dox yourself. But having the agency to be able to use any wallet, stay anonymous, reveal yourself. Like if you have a public address, you want people to send donations to it. So, what we think about when we're designing this decentralized identity solutions with the reusable KYC or the credit score is how do we do it in a way that gives the agency to people and helps them keep their agency. So you don't have to create an O score if you don't want. You don't have to verify yourself, if you want. It's just that like verifying yourself gives you access to certain products and services that inherently need a level of identity to properly function. And within DeFi, this would be like reputation-based lending. Like you really need to
Mhm.
have some kind of identity to enable that. And that's a great use case that can help a lot of people. And if people don't want to participate in that, then they don't have to, right? They just don't verify themselves that way, and they just stick to the other products. I mean, I think in general, like identity is also important for, uh, you know, voting and for DAOs, like being able to verify that you're a person. And yeah, I think that KYCing is scary because KYCing involves some kind of level of government identification. But I think that people having the agency to choose whether or not, like, maybe I want to verify myself through social media instead, or there's a lot of interesting decentralized identity projects that are verifying people in other ways, like they're doing,
Mhm.
like proof shows something like a video of yourself, like Proof of Humanity does like submit a video of yourself, and then you have other people vouch for you that you are a real person. That proves that you're a real person. So I think it's like there's different elements, right? Like soft verification and hard verification, and only very few products are going to need hard verification, like government level verification. I think most
Mhm.
products can get by with just like do a little social media thing or something. It's important even for like NFTs too, right? Like you look at NFTs and these artists that are minting NFTs. It's like you want to know that the NFT you're buying is from that artist, so they need to verify
Mhm.
themselves, right? Like so decentralized identity is important there as well. So I think that as time goes on, we need to have these level, identity and verification on blockchains for certain products and services.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. It's about levels. It's about agency. So if a bank comes in and they decide they want to offer a DeFi product, there's no way to get around the regulatory needs that they have. They're going to need some hard KYC, and users should be able to have the choice. You can participate in that or not. There are options. So I think this question, John, is absolutely fantastic to think about. What is the spirit of blockchain? Is it anonymity? Is it pseudonymity? Is it full on full on KYC doxed? It's a blend, right? That's what it is. Different people have different needs in terms of their personal security and information sharing. So do institutions. So thanks for talking about that. So many great questions here. Keenan, I'm going to bring up yours. Keenan wants to put his house up and do a double mortgage. Any plans for off-chain assets like using houses or a house as collateral? You mentioned real estate and property. Could like an average Joe put up his house as mortgage?
Yeah, I think so. Well, it depends. I mean, that's where the jurisdiction stuff comes in, right? It's like
Yeah.
depending on what the jurisdiction and the rules are around where you live, that might or might not be something that's available to you pretty early on. I mean, we're looking at places that can do this kind of thing now, based off of how the regulations are there. But I mean, I hope that one day anyone would be able to do it, right? And anyone would be able to take property that they own and put it on a blockchain themselves. But unfortunately, this is something that's very limited based off of like where you live and how the regulations are there.
Yeah, we're still seeing projects figure it out and take a step back and take two steps forward and work it out. And, just sorting the regulatory needs depending on the jurisdiction is challenging to say the least. So that is developing. Let's turn a little bit, such great questions here, you guys. Let's turn a little bit to the blockchain question. I'm going to do another Keenan question because somebody else asked about Avalanche earlier. Keenan mentions it. What are the benefits of building on ontology versus other blockchains? And then earlier, if you guys weren't here, Eric did say they're building on not only ontology, but also on Ethereum, also coming on Binance Smart Chain. What do you see as ontology's real strength, though?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of strengths. The first, as a blockchain itself, right, the low transaction costs, high transaction speeds make it really good to make an accessible DApp that can be used by people without breaking the bank. So we're trying to make accessible tools for inclusive finance. We don't want people paying like hundreds of dollars in gas fees just to interact with products. So that's one big thing, right? Like thinking about the audience and the people that are going to be using it. Like, is it just rich whales, or is it like something that anybody can use, like in any part of the world?
Mm-hmm.
And another thing is we have a lot of interoperability with other chains. So like using OntID. OntID works with ontology asset. With the ontology, you can link. Essentially, you take your OntID and you can bind it with different wallets. So you can bind it to an ontology wallet. You can bind it to an Ethereum wallet, a Near wallet, a Celo wallet, a Binance Smart Chain wallet, and pretty soon a Polkadot wallet. So it is a high level of interoperability. If you use OntID, you'll be able to use it interacting with all the different chains. And then lastly, through the bridges as well, same thing. When you can transfer assets from ontology onto, or you can transfer assets from Ethereum, you can wrap them and put them on ontology, assets from Neo, put them on ontology. You're going to be doing the same thing with Binance Smart Chain assets. So if you need like a good playground of different assets to use, you can have all your favorite Ethereum assets, right? Like on ontology. Difference is that on ontology, the gas fees are super low. So you can do swaps, you can do lending, you can do insurance, streaming payments, like all of the same things, but you're doing it with wrapped assets, and therefore like the gas fees are like much, much lower.
I remember in 2018, I was at a conference and everybody was talking interoperability is coming. Interoperability is coming. We're making it happen. And there was silence for 2 years. And then, and that was the big question, like, okay, is it really coming? Because we need something. And now, bam, yeah, we've got ontology. We've got all these really interesting projects that can talk interchain. They can bridge assets. And there's a lot of really exciting things happening there. Thanks, Keenan, for that question. We're starting to get some questions about NFTs in here. So let's open this up. I know you guys have this PolkaPets thing. We've got questions about NFTs as collateral and all sorts of things, but what are the PolkaPets? How does that fit into Wing and what you guys are doing? And then we'll talk a little bit about NFTs.
Yeah. So PolkaPets is one of our partners. They're making a playable NFT game with PolkaPet NFTs. Right. So like, your typical, everything that you would think that there would be like in a game, like you can get these creatures, you can fight them, you could raise them. Third-party developers could come and build new worlds and new experiences with them. So it's a whole endeavor. One of the really cool things about PolkaPets is that the pets themselves are themed after different projects in the blockchain space. So there's like a PolkaPet after Spider DAO. There's like a PolkaPet after Wing, right? There's different pets that represent different projects. And so each pet can also be used in their community, right? And used like for things that maybe you get access to special developer beta testing, or you get some extra rewards. So we have the Wing pet, and what we're working on with the Wing PolkaPet is that you can lend and borrow it on the Any pool, right? It's a perfect pool for that. It's like lend and borrow anything. You'll be able to lend and borrow it on the Any pool and earn Wing rewards for doing that, and then collateralizing, right? So lending and borrowing your Wing PolkaPet. We're also doing other experiments with it, like we've launched a Telegram chat where you need the PolkaPet in your wallet to be able to access the Telegram chat. So that's really cool. Thinking about NFTs for exclusivity or like special access, or like getting VIP access to stuff, getting a special group chat, layering it up on there. And really, we're just like experimenting, right? Experimenting along with the PolkaPets team, like how can NFTs be used for for lending and borrowing, right? How can NFTs be used in more DeFi oriented applications?
I'm starting to see more of that in across the crypto chats as people are coming up with weird and creative uses for NFTs as collateral, as like ticketing, as a unique marker of participation in some interesting ways. So thank you for that. That's good partner there. This is Chainlink Labs. So how do you guys use Chainlink? We're working together. You've integrated Chainlink. How so?
Yeah. So uh, obviously, lending platforms need oracles for price feeds, and there's been a lot of flash loan attacks on lending platforms, specifically targeting the oracles. So more often than not, like these hacks are because of the oracles. So we wanted to make sure that we use a decentralized oracle like Chainlink to help secure the assets on the Wing platform. But there was a gap. So the gap was that looking at the list of supported assets on Chainlink, there wasn't Wing and there wasn't Ontology. So Wing Finance came in. We sponsored those two price feeds to get those two added, and then we were able to integrate Chainlink for Wing. So we're using Chainlink oracles for Wing, and that makes everything a lot more secure and decentralized. We plan on using it for the Binance Smart Chain version of Wing as well. Right, so that just kind of helps with the security, helps kind of guarantee that security. It's like we get the price feeds from Chainlink, which gets the price feeds from all of these different sources, and you guys have your whole security model around that. So it makes it a lot easier to kind of just work with you guys on that to try to just have like our own Oracle running on Wing.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the things I'm super excited about Chainlink is it's the blockchain agnostic. So the ideal is that you can move your protocol, have a version of it on BSC as well, and then plug in price feeds to do the same thing. And then if you decide to move somewhere else, same thing. Hopefully, a relatively easy development lift, so we can enable you to get spun up fast and do things quickly. Got some other really great questions here. Let's do a couple of more. John's got another cool one, and I've got a fun one for the end. So our audience, thank you so much. These questions are fantastic. You're putting Eric to the fire, but not too hard. I like it. They're good questions and learning a lot about Wing here. John asks, and he's talking about the O score, I think, or if we do collateral on the any pool or things like that. If these are on a public ledger, are they vulnerable to chain analysis? So if you put your house up as collateral, are you doxing yourself? Like, yeah, what are sort of the elements around that, or the thinking around privacy, but still, putting up things on a public ledger?
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's interesting. I think that it's definitely an issue as a space as a whole that we kind of have to solve through, especially with NFTs. That if you buy an NFT and then people know you have that NFT, it's very, very difficult to kind of remove that association unless you sell it. No matter where you transfer it to another wallet, people can see you transfer it to that wallet. Transfer it to the next wallet. Transfer it to like 100 different wallets. People can see that entire chain, so they still know you have it. Really, the only way around that is you use some kind of mixer. So like some interesting mixers out there that help you, like, you're sending it, you put it into a pool, or you take your ETH, you put it into a pool with like everyone else's ETH, and then it all gets dispersed out. So you don't really know who's sending it to what. Basically the way that Monero works, but there are projects that are doing it on ETH itself. And I don't know, I mean, I feel conflicted. Like I love the idea and I think it's great and I want it to work. And I think it should work because I think the privacy is very important. But those tools also help enable a lot of money laundering, and people like these scammers that are rug pulling is like they usually wash their ETH through those services so that people can't track them anymore. So it's a double-edged sword, right? It's like these tools that will help people keep privacy for themselves, also enabling some of this like scamming activity. So I don't know. I mean, the short answer is that yes. I mean, everything that's done on a public ledger through chain analysis, people can determine like what you're doing. So we need these tools and services that like mix and shield and do like zero knowledge transactions. I think those are very, very important. And we are going to need those. We just have to think about how do we push the development on that without enabling, or facilitating like more scamming activity, which is kind of unavoidable. I mean, like you could argue having the internet and having channels for communication and facilitates scamming activity, but we can't shut down the internet. We just have to have like moderation and debates. We still haven't figured it out for the internet, really. We have to think about that.
Another case for privacy is on this sort of element is the B2B transactions. If I'm an enterprise, I don't want to put my whole balance sheet on a public ledger necessarily. Like there might be good reasons for me not to do that, but yet still I want to do business with another enterprise. I need to be able to show that that I have the funds that I say I do, without revealing that elsewhere. So there are solutions that people are working on for that. ZK Starks and Proof Starkware, as well as Chainlink has a Deco initiative that we're working on. So John, if you've got questions about these, and I see some other people asking about it, Deco, DECO, go ahead and look that up in Chainlink, and that's in the works. That's on the roadmap. But you can check out the Chainlink 2.0 white paper for more information on that. These are great questions and comments. Eric, where is Wing going next? What's on the roadmap? What can we expect in the next month or two or longer?
Yeah, definitely more with the any pool. I think the most exciting thing for us to be exploring right now is NFT lending and borrowing, security token lending and borrowing, and how do you facilitate that? What kinds of NFT assets will people lend and borrow? I'm personally really excited about like virtual land and like Decentraland and Sandbox, and more than just like using the land and speculating on land, but actually like collateralizing it, or like taking out digital mortgages on your digital land with your digital credit score. Like it's all like living in the future. Like it's really, really exciting stuff. I mean, the Flash pool is also growing bigger, like in total value locked. Like on Ontology, we have about $280 million worth of value of total value locked. On the Ethereum one, we have 12 million total value locked. And we're adding new assets, we're listing new assets. We're interested in exploring synthetic assets. So we talk very closely with both Mirror and Synthetics about listing tokens for lending and borrowing, like say M Tesla or S coin. So those synthetic assets pegged to the value of the Coinbase stock or pegged to the value of Tesla stock. Yeah, now you have it. Now you have it on chain. You have the price exposure to the asset. It's really cool. What if you can lend it now? What if you can lend your synthetic Tesla stock tokens, borrow DAI, and then go spend the DAI and then use the DAI however you need? I think that, again, going back to the money Legos, like that's very exciting stuff, being able to make use of those assets and put them to work.
Yeah, for those people not familiar with the money Legos term, it's the term composability, where DeFi elements and protocols, they can kind of speak to each other because they're using the same language. So you can borrow DAI, you can use that DAI and stake it somewhere else to borrow something else, and everything kind of talks together, even though they're different projects and different branding and all that, if they're on the right chain and they have the right connectors together. Eric, that's super exciting stuff. Ravi, I see your question. I'm running low on time. So here's what I'm going to do. This is an excellent question, and I'm going to ask you to go and ask it in the Wing community. Eric, where can these fine folks who are interested in Wing find you and your community? Where can they chat with you?
Yeah, we have a Telegram chat. And so that's kind of where most of the communication happens. So if you go to wing.finance and scroll down, you'll see links. You can join the Telegram chat, join the discussion. We also have a Twitter, and you can follow the Twitter for all the news and announcements as well.
Awesome. So please do that. If this is interesting to you, join the Wing community, join the Chainlink community, join them both. We work together, right? Wing integrates Chainlink. We try to support each other because as this DeFi ecosystem grows, we want to secure it. We want to make these things composable, work together, and make them accessible so people can use them. So join those communities, ask these questions. To the community, thank you so much. What a fantastic set of questions. Eric, thank you for coming. It's great to meet you and hang out with you for a little while. Oh, there was one more question. Are you wearing a Chainlink shirt?
No, sorry.
Oh, it's Chainlink blue. So somebody asked at the very beginning.
It's a consensus shirt. It's a consensus shirt. I'm so sorry. I didn't want to.
No, it's cool.
I don't have a Chainlink shirt. You have to send me a Chainlink shirt.
Okay, we're gonna work on it. I have a My Crypto shirt underneath, so I'm not wearing Chainlink either.
Okay, but,
yeah. We're still sorry. Okay, we'll figure that out. Again, thank you to the audience. Thank you, Josh, for helping me out on the community side, and everybody for participating. Again, my name is Andy Boyan. This is Chainlink Live. We've been talking to Wing Finance. This will be available on YouTube, so feel free to share with your community. And again, join those other communities and join us next time on Chainlink Live. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.